there is a prayer made 1,000 years ago, not written in books for fame, not spoken for attention, but whispered in sincerity to Allah in the quiet of the night. A prayer asking for protection, guidance, and mercy for descendants who would not even exist yet. And now, in a way no one can fully explain, that prayer may be shaping your life today. The doors that opened for you, the dangers you avoided, the strange strength you feel after every hardship. None of it may be as random as it looks. What if your survival is not just luck? What if your patience, your resilience, and even your return to faith after every mistake is connected to something far older than your own story? Because in Islam, sincere prayers do not disappear. They travel through time by the will of Allah, reaching people across generations, touching hearts and changing destinies in ways the world cannot see. And if that is true, then your life is not just being lived, it is being guided, protected, and shaped by a prayer you never heard, but may be the reason you are still standing today. Lesson 1. Righteous prayers outlive the people who made them. One of the deepest truths in Islam is that righteous prayers do not die when the person who made them leaves this world. A sincere believer may return to Allah centuries ago, yet the mercy of their dua can still be flowing through generations today because Allah hears every prayer and preserves the impact of sincere hearts. Imagine a righteous servant waking up in the darkness of the night, crying and begging Allah to protect their future children from evil, to guide their descendants back to faith no matter how lost the world becomes, and to place light inside hearts they would never live to see. That person never knew your name, never saw your face, and never imagined the exact struggles you would face, yet by Allah's permission, their prayer may still be protecting you right now. This is why some people survive pain that should have destroyed them spiritually, why certain individuals keep finding their way back to Allah after every mistake, and why some souls feel a strange protection around their life even during their darkest seasons. The world calls it luck, intelligence, or resilience, but Islam teaches that unseen mercy can surround a person because of the prayers of the righteous who came before them. A grandfather, grandmother, or righteous ancestor may have feared corruption entering their bloodline and spent years asking Allah to preserve faith within their family long after their death. And today, you may be living inside the answer to those prayers without even realizing it. That sudden urge you feel to reconnect with Allah after drifting away, the discomfort you feel around darkness and sin, the strength that rises inside you after heartbreak and betrayal may not be random at all. Allah may still be answering prayers spoken long before your birth. And when you truly understand this, you stop seeing your life as an accident because your survival, guidance, and spiritual awakening may be connected to mercy that began generations before you were even born. Lesson 2. Allah may have been protecting you through delays, rejections, and pain. One of the hardest things for people to understand is that not every unanswered prayer is rejection from Allah. Sometimes the delay, the heartbreak, the closed door, or the painful separation was actually divine protection working silently in your life. There were moments when you begged for certain people to stay, certain opportunities to happen, or certain plans to work out. But Allah allowed everything to collapse because He could see what you could not see. A righteous person generations ago may have prayed for Allah to protect their future descendants from relationships that would destroy their faith, environments that would corrupt their hearts, or paths that would lead them away from truth. And today, you may be experiencing the answer to those prayers without realizing it. At the time, your pain felt unfair. You thought Allah abandoned you because things were not happening the way you wanted, but later you began to see that some losses were actually rescue missions. The betrayal exposed people who secretly wanted to damage you. The delay forced you to grow emotionally and spiritually. The loneliness pushed you toward Allah instead of deeper attachment to people. Even the struggles that nearly broke you were shaping wisdom, patience, and strength inside your soul. The world only sees disappointment, but believers eventually realize that Allah sometimes protects a person by removing what they desperately wanted. That is why some people look back years later and thank Allah for prayers that were never answered the way they expected. What felt like destruction was actually redirection. What felt like punishment was actually mercy. And what looked like the end of your plans may have been Allah protecting a future you could not yet understand. Lesson 3. The faith inside. You may be the result of a prayer made long before you were born. One of the most powerful signs that Allah may still be answering ancient prayers through your life is the fact that no matter how far you drift, something inside you keeps searching for Him again. There are people who completely surrender themselves to darkness, corruption, arrogance, and worldly distractions until their hearts become spiritually empty. Yet, somehow, your soul still feels restless when it is far from Allah. Even after mistakes, pain, confusion, or periods of weakness, there remains a part of you that still wants truth, peace, and guidance, and that is not something to take lightly. A righteous person from generations before you may have spent years begging Allah to keep faith alive within their bloodline long after they were gone. They may have feared a future where their descendants would grow up surrounded by temptation, spiritual confusion, fake values, and endless distractions pulling them away from Islam, so they cried to Allah asking Him to protect future hearts they would never meet. And today, you may be living inside the answer to those prayers. That uncomfortable feeling you get when your soul becomes distant from Allah, the guilt that awakens after sin, the emotional pull toward prayer during hardship, and the deep longing for inner peace that this world can never fully satisfy, may all be signs of mercy flowing through generations. The world tries to convince people that spirituality is weakness and that chasing desires without limits is freedom. But your soul keeps realizing that life without Allah eventually feels empty, no matter how much temporary pleasure exists around you. That is why certain people cannot fully silence their conscience. Even when they try to escape faith, something keeps calling them back. Allah may be protecting them because of sincere prayers made by righteous believers who asked Him to preserve guidance within their family for generations to come. And when you truly understand this, you begin seeing your spiritual journey differently, because your connection to Allah may not only be about your own efforts today, but also about mercy that began long before your birth. Lesson 4. The prayers of the righteous can protect generations from destruction. One of the most powerful realities in Islam is that the sincere prayers of righteous people can become a shield of mercy over future generations, and throughout the lives of the prophets we see clear examples of this divine protection. When Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, prayed to Allah, he did not only ask for blessings for himself, but he begged Allah to make future generations among his descendants devoted to faith and submission to Him. Imagine the depth of that prayer. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, was thinking beyond his own lifetime, beyond his own struggles, and beyond the people directly around him. He was asking Allah to preserve belief through generations that had not even been born yet. And centuries later, from his lineage came prophets, righteous believers, and finally Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, whose message transformed the world. This shows that a sincere prayer can continue unfolding across hundreds of years by the permission of Allah. Another powerful example is when Prophet Yaqub, peace be upon him, continued advising and praying for his children even during immense hardship and heartbreak after losing Yusuf, peace be upon him. Despite pain, betrayal within the family, and years of sadness, he never stopped turning to Allah for the protection and guidance of his children. These stories are not just history lessons. They are reminders that righteous people understand something the world often forgets. Your prayers today can shape lives far beyond your own lifetime. That may explain why certain people in this generation still carry a strange protection over their soul, even when they are surrounded by corruption, distractions, temptations, and darkness. Something inside them refuses to completely surrender. They feel guilt after sin. They feel drawn back toward Allah after drifting away, and they survive spiritual battles that should have destroyed them because Allah may still be answering prayers spoken by righteous ancestors long ago. The world only sees coincidence, but believers understand that unseen mercy can follow a bloodline when sincere servants of Allah cry for the future of their family with honesty and fear of losing faith. This should also change the way you think about your own prayers, because maybe one day, generations after you are gone, someone in your family will survive hardship, escape destruction, or find their way back to Allah because of a prayer you once made with tears in the middle of the night. Lesson 5. Your existence may be the answer to a prayer made thousands of years ago. Most people walk through life believing they are random individuals trying to survive random events, but Islam teaches something far deeper and far more powerful than that. There are moments in your life that may actually be connected to prayers spoken centuries before your birth by righteous people who begged Allah to protect, guide, and preserve future generations they would never live to see. Think about how enormous that reality truly is. Before you existed, before your parents existed, before entire nations and generations rose and fell, there were righteous servants of Allah crying during the night, asking Him to place light within the hearts of their descendants and to save them from becoming spiritually lost in times of corruption and confusion. Those prayers did not disappear. Allah heard every word, every tear, every fear hidden inside those supplications, and because His mercy is beyond human understanding, He can allow the impact of those prayers to continue unfolding across hundreds or even thousands of years. That means some of the protection around your life today may not only come from your own actions, but from mercy connected to righteous people who deeply feared for the spiritual future of generations they would never meet. This is why certain people survive situations that should have completely destroyed them. It is why some individuals keep returning to Allah even after periods of weakness, distraction, sin, and emotional darkness. It is why there are souls who feel spiritually different from the people around them even when they cannot fully explain why. Deep inside, there remains a longing for truth, peace, sincerity, and connection with Allah, and that longing itself may be evidence of ancient mercy still flowing through their life. When you study the lives of the prophets, you begin realizing that righteous people always thought beyond themselves. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, did not only ask Allah for blessings in his own lifetime, he prayed for future generations to remain connected to worship and obedience to Allah. He feared spiritual corruption entering his lineage, so he begged Allah to preserve righteousness within generations that had not even been born yet. And look at the impact of that prayer. From his descendants came prophets, believers, righteous nations, and eventually Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, whose message reached the entire world. This shows that Allah can allow one sincere prayer to shape history itself. Another example is Prophet Zachariah, peace be upon him, who prayed desperately for righteous offspring even in old age because he cared deeply about preserving faith and truth after his death. Allah answered him with Yahya, peace be upon him, a righteous prophet whose life became a source of guidance for many people. These stories reveal something profound. The righteous never think only about temporary worldly success. They think about faith surviving through generations. They think about protecting future souls from becoming spiritually destroyed. And perhaps someone in your own lineage once made prayers with that same sincerity, asking Allah to protect future descendants from darkness they themselves could not even imagine. This may explain why certain events in your life feel too precise to be coincidence. Maybe there were moments when you almost entered paths that would have destroyed your faith, but somehow the situation collapsed before it could fully consume you. Maybe there were relationships you desperately wanted to keep, yet Allah removed those people from your life because they would have slowly poisoned your heart and disconnected you from Him. Maybe there were seasons of pain, loneliness, and confusion that forced you to rebuild yourself spiritually because Allah was answering prayers, asking Him to guide future generations back toward truth, no matter how far they drifted. At the time, you may have felt abandoned, rejected, or punished, but later you realized those painful moments were actually protection. This is one of the hardest spiritual lessons for human beings to understand because people naturally associate mercy with comfort. But in Islam, mercy sometimes arrives through struggle. Allah may allow temporary pain to save a person from permanent spiritual destruction. A righteous ancestor may have prayed, "Ya Allah, do not let my descendants become lost, even if you must redirect them through hardship." And today, you may be living through the answer to that prayer without realizing it. The modern world constantly teaches people to focus only on material explanations. Society says success comes only from intelligence, survival comes only from mental toughness, and spiritual feelings are meaningless emotions. But believers understand there is an unseen reality operating beyond what human eyes can fully see. Allah controls hearts, destinies, protection, guidance, and timing in ways human beings cannot measure. That strange feeling inside you that refuses to fully accept darkness may not be random. The guilt you feel after sin may not be weakness. The emotional pull toward prayer during hardship may not be accidental. The fact that your soul still searches for peace through Allah after everything you have experienced may be evidence that mercy has surrounded your life for far longer than you realize. Many people become completely consumed by arrogance, distractions, addictions, and worldly desires until they no longer feel spiritual emptiness at all. Yet your soul still feels restless when it becomes distant from Allah. That restlessness is important. It means your heart is still alive. It means Allah may still be pulling you back toward Him through mercy connected to sincere prayers made long before your birth. And perhaps this is why some people become strangely threatened by your presence even when you are quiet. They cannot understand how you continue surviving emotionally, spiritually, and mentally after everything you have faced. They expected betrayal to destroy you. They expected hardship to harden your heart permanently. They expected loneliness to break your spirit. Yet somehow you continue rebuilding yourself. Somehow you continue searching for truth. Somehow you continue finding your way back toward Allah. People only see your external life, but they cannot see the unseen mercy operating behind it. They cannot see the prayers that may still be protecting you. In Islam, protection is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes protection is simply Allah keeping your heart alive while everything around you tries to kill your faith. Sometimes protection is Allah removing people before they ruin your soul. Sometimes protection is allowing you to feel pain that awakens you spiritually before you become completely lost in worldly illusions. This should completely change the way you see your struggles because many of the battles you faced may have had a deeper purpose than you realized. Your pain may have been shaping wisdom that future generations will need. Your healing may become the reason your children grow up emotionally healthier and spiritually stronger. Your return to Allah may completely change the direction of your family for decades after your death. Too many people underestimate the long-term impact of spiritual growth. They think their private prayers personal struggles, and attempts to improve themselves only affect their own lives, but righteousness has generational consequences. One sincere believer can become the beginning of mercy for an entire bloodline. One person reconnecting with Allah can shift the future of children and grandchildren they may never even meet. This is why the enemy of your soul works so hard to keep people spiritually distracted, hopeless, and disconnected from prayer. Because once a person truly understands the power of sincere dua and righteous living, they stop seeing themselves as temporary individuals chasing temporary pleasures. They begin realizing they are part of something much larger than themselves. And now the responsibility reaches you. Maybe you were protected by prayers from generations before you. But what prayers are you making for the generations that will come after you? Are you only thinking about temporary worldly success? Or are you asking Allah to preserve faith, guidance, peace, and righteousness within your future family long after you are gone? Imagine how powerful it would be if one day, hundreds of years from now, someone from your bloodline survives spiritual destruction because Allah answered a prayer you made tonight. Imagine your tears becoming protection for people you will never meet. That is the beauty of sincere prayer in Islam. A believer's impact does not end with death. Through dua, faith, sincerity, sacrifice, and trust in Allah, mercy can continue flowing across generations in ways human beings cannot even fully comprehend. So, if your soul has always felt strangely guided, protected, or repeatedly pulled back toward Allah despite all your flaws and mistakes, maybe it is because your existence itself is connected to prayers spoken long before this world ever knew your name. Lesson 6. The greatest spiritual battles in your life may have been the result of Allah preparing you for a purpose greater than you can see. One of the deepest realities many people fail to understand is that not every battle in your life was sent to destroy you. Some battles were allowed by Allah to transform you into the person your soul was meant to become. There are seasons of pain, rejection, confusion, loneliness, betrayal, and spiritual exhaustion that feel unbearable while you are living through them. Yet later you realize those very moments were shaping wisdom, discipline, strength, patience, and dependence on Allah in ways comfort never could. The modern world teaches people to avoid hardship at all costs, to chase constant pleasure, validation, entertainment, and temporary escape, but the lives of the prophets show a completely different reality. Every prophet faced deep tests before reaching the purpose Allah prepared for them. Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a well, separated from his father, falsely accused and imprisoned despite his innocence. Yet every painful chapter was preparing him for the position Allah had written for him long before he could understand it. Imagine how confusing his suffering must have felt in those moments. He could not yet see the future wisdom behind the betrayal, the loneliness, or the injustice, but Allah was guiding every step with perfect knowledge. In the same way, many of the painful experiences in your own life may have been preparing your soul for a purpose far greater than temporary comfort. There were people who walked away from you because Allah knew they could not go where He was taking you. There were doors that closed because success through those paths would have damaged your faith, your character, or your future. There were seasons where you felt emotionally isolated because Allah wanted to separate you from noise, distractions, and unhealthy attachments so you could hear the deeper truth inside your soul. At the time, you may have thought your life was falling apart, but in reality, Allah may have been rebuilding you from the inside. This is one of the hardest spiritual lessons to accept because human beings naturally want quick answers and immediate relief. Yet Allah often works through long periods of transformation that only make sense later. A righteous person generations ago may have prayed not only for your protection, but also for your spiritual strength, wisdom, and guidance during difficult times. And Allah may have answered those prayers by allowing certain hardships to shape you instead of destroy you. That changes the way you see suffering entirely, because suddenly your pain is no longer meaningless. The nights you cried alone, the betrayals that broke your trust, the failures that humbled your ego, and the disappointments that forced you closer to Allah may all have been part of a divine process preparing you for something your current mind cannot yet fully understand. When you study the lives of the prophets, you begin realizing that Allah often prepares the strongest souls through the deepest tests. Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, was placed into danger as a baby, separated from his mother, raised in the house of Pharaoh, forced into exile, and later burdened with confronting one of the most tyrannical rulers in history. Imagine how impossible that mission must have seemed, yet every stage of his life was preparing him emotionally, mentally, and spiritually for what Allah intended him to carry. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also experienced profound hardship before revelation transformed the world through him. He lost his father before birth, lost his mother at a young age, experienced poverty, rejection, mockery, persecution, betrayal, and deep grief, yet those painful experiences created compassion, resilience, humility, patience, and complete dependence on Allah within his character. The prophets were not protected from pain, they were guided through it. That is an extremely important distinction because many people wrongly believe hardship means Allah has abandoned them, when sometimes hardship is actually evidence that Allah is shaping them carefully. There are people who become arrogant, spiritually asleep, and emotionally weak because they never face enough struggle to awaken their soul. Comfort can make a person forget Allah, forget gratitude, forget humility, and forget the temporary nature of this world. But pain has a strange ability to reveal truth. It exposes fake relationships. It reveals hidden intentions. It destroys illusions. It forces people to confront themselves honestly, and most importantly, it reminds human beings that no worldly thing can truly heal the emptiness inside the heart except closeness to Allah. This may explain why certain struggles in your life kept repeating until you finally changed internally. Maybe Allah was not punishing you. Maybe He was teaching you. Maybe He was breaking attachments that were slowly weakening your soul. Human beings often become dependent on people, attention, relationships, money, comfort, routines, or dreams so deeply that those things begin replacing trust in Allah within their heart. Then, when those attachments are removed, people panic because they built emotional security on temporary things instead of eternal truth. Yet sometimes Allah removes what you worship emotionally so you can rediscover Him properly. This is why many spiritually awakened people say their deepest pain eventually became the reason they transformed. The heartbreak forced them to reconnect with prayer. The loneliness forced them to confront themselves honestly. The failure destroyed arrogance. The betrayal exposed who truly cared about them. The confusion pushed them toward seeking truth. The suffering that once felt unbearable later became the reason their soul awakened. And perhaps someone righteous in your lineage once prayed for Allah to keep future generations spiritually awake even during times of corruption and distraction. So Allah allowed hardship to become the tool that guided you back toward Him. The modern world constantly encourages people to numb themselves instead of healing. Society tells people to distract themselves from pain with entertainment, addictions, endless scrolling, meaningless validation, temporary relationships, and material pursuits. But none of those things truly heal the soul. They only silence pain temporarily while emptiness grows deeper internally. That is why so many people who appear successful externally still feel spiritually lost. They have money, attention, beauty, influence, and comfort, yet their soul feels exhausted because human beings were not created to survive only on worldly pleasures. The heart was created to know Allah. And when the soul becomes distant from its Creator, even temporary happiness begins feeling hollow eventually. This is why some people who experience hardship actually become spiritually stronger, while others become bitter and hopeless. The difference is whether the pain pushes them toward Allah or further away from Him. A believer eventually realizes that every difficulty contains an opportunity for transformation. Every painful season contains lessons hidden beneath the surface. Every struggle can either awaken the soul or harden it, depending on how the person responds. And perhaps this is why your journey has felt so intense compared to other people around you. Some souls are allowed to sleep through life spiritually numb, chasing temporary pleasures without ever questioning deeper truths, but Allah may have intended something different for you. He may have allowed experiences that shattered illusions because your soul was meant to awaken. That awakening often comes painfully because human beings rarely transform deeply while remaining completely comfortable. Sometimes Allah must remove distractions before a person finally listens. Sometimes He must allow loneliness before a person understands the value of sincere connection with Him. Sometimes He must break worldly attachments before a person discovers inner peace through faith. This does not mean suffering itself is good or that believers should seek hardship unnecessarily. It means Allah can create wisdom, growth, healing, and transformation even from pain. The enemy of your soul wants you to interpret every hardship as proof that your life is cursed, meaningless, or abandoned by Allah, because hopelessness weakens faith. Once a person loses hope, they stop praying sincerely, stop trying to improve, and stop believing change is possible. But believers understand something powerful. Allah can transform a person's life completely through one moment of sincere return to Him. A soul that feels broken today can become spiritually strong tomorrow. A person lost in darkness can become deeply guided. A painful chapter can become the very thing that saves someone's future. And this is why you must stop viewing yourself only through the lens of your past wounds. Yes, you suffered. Yes, you experienced pain that changed you emotionally and spiritually. Yes, there were moments where you felt abandoned, misunderstood, rejected, or exhausted. But those moments do not define your final destination. Allah may still be writing a story through your life that you cannot yet fully understand. The same pain that almost broke you may eventually become the reason you help others heal. The loneliness that forced you closer to Allah may become the source of your inner peace. The hardships that humbled you may protect you from arrogance in the future, and the spiritual battles you survived may become proof that Allah was strengthening you for a purpose greater than your current understanding. Sometimes the deepest prayers made generations ago are answered not by removing all hardship from someone's life, but by giving them the strength, wisdom, resilience, and guidance to survive hardship without losing their soul. So, if your journey has felt unusually painful, intense, or spiritually transformative, do not immediately assume Allah has forgotten you. The prophets themselves walked through deep valleys before reaching the purpose Allah had prepared for them. And perhaps, even now, Allah is using every painful chapter in your life to shape you into the answer to a prayer made long before you were ever born. Conclusion. So, after everything you have heard tonight, understand this deeply. Your life may be far more connected to the unseen mercy of Allah than you ever realized. The struggles you survived, the moments you were protected without understanding why, the times your soul kept returning to Allah after drifting away, and the strange feeling that your life has always been guided through invisible hands may not be coincidences at all. Somewhere in the past, righteous people may have raised their hands in the darkness of the night and begged Allah to protect future generations from becoming spiritually lost. They prayed for descendants they would never meet, for hearts they would never see, and for souls living in times of confusion, temptation, and darkness. And today, you may be walking inside the answer to those prayers. This is why certain doors closed before they destroyed you, why some painful endings became hidden blessings, and why your soul still feels restless whenever it becomes distant from Allah. The world may call it luck, resilience, or coincidence, but believers understand there is unseen mercy operating behind every chapter of life. Allah hears every sincere prayer, and His power is not limited by time. A dua made centuries ago can still shape a destiny today. That means your existence itself may already be proof that sincere prayer never dies. But the most important lesson is this: now the responsibility moves to you. The righteous before you prayed for future generations, and now you must become the person who continues that chain of mercy. Pray for children you may never meet. Pray for descendants who will live in a world you cannot imagine. Ask Allah to protect future generations from spiritual darkness, emotional emptiness, arrogance, addiction, hopelessness, and distance from Him. Ask Him to place light, wisdom, sincerity, peace, and faith inside hearts connected to your bloodline long after you leave this earth. Because one day, generations from now, someone may survive pain, escape destruction, or find their way back to Allah because of a prayer you once made with tears in your eyes. That is the beauty of Islam. A believer's influence does not end with death. Through sincere dua, righteous actions, patience, and trust in Allah, mercy can continue flowing through centuries. So never think your prayers are small, and never think your struggles are meaningless. Allah may already be writing a story through your life that future generations will one day benefit from, even after your name is forgotten by the world.